Hello and welcome to your practice today. My name is Danielle. Our practice today will focus on our low back through Viniyoga. Viniyoga is a style of yoga that is meant to help us find integration by understanding each side of body, meeting our body where we are, and notice the function rather than the form. Knowing that it is okay for you to honor what you and body need throughout practice. Taking time to find that for yourself and knowing there are no musts. We will begin today's practice in a seated shape. Whatever that looks like for you, maybe your legs are crossed, maybe you're seated on your shins, or maybe your legs are long in front. Taking time to find yourself in a comfortable seat as we gently make our way into our practice today. Option for your eyes to be open or closed. If your eyes are open, finding a soft and gentle gaze. Maybe you bring hands to your legs, or finding any hand variation that calls to you here. As we stack our shoulders over our hips and elongate spine as we reach crown of head, highest sky. As we find ourselves here, the invitation is begin to notice the environment that's around you, any sounds in this room, any sounds outside of this room, maybe the touch of air on your skin, and the sensations from our body touching the surface supporting it. Taking time to welcome anything that presents itself to you here with curiosity and openness. Beginning to notice and connect with breath. The invitation is to use breath to guide and anchor you throughout your practice. If you notice your mind wandering or any discomfort or dis-ease, the invitation is to return to breath and allow yourself to be here now. If your eyes are closed, the invitation is to gently blink them open. And as you find an inhale, we'll gently make our way to a tabletop shape, stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. As we spread our fingers evenly, option to bring the blanket underneath our shins for support. As we find an inhale, gently lowering belly, lifting gaze. On an exhale, hips to heels, maybe forehead reaches mat or block. Inhale, finding a flat back, lower belly, lift gaze. Exhale, hips to heels. Finding an inhale, lower belly, lift gaze. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, flat back, lower belly, lift gaze. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, flat back, lower belly, lift gaze. Exhale, hips to heels. One more. Inhale, flat back, lower belly, lift gaze. Exhale, hips to heels. Taking a moment to connect with yourself, with this moment. Noticing any sensations that come up for you. And on your next inhale, we'll gently find our way to tall kneeling. Bringing shins down to the mat as we lift our torso. As we find an inhale, lifting arms. And on an exhale, hips to heels, backs of hands to low back, maybe forehead reaches mat or block. Inhale, rise, reaching arms. Exhale, hips to heels, hands low back. Inhale, reach. Exhale, hips to heels, hands low back. Inhale, reach. Exhale, hips to heels, hands low back. One more time, rise here. And on an exhale, hips to heels, hands low back. Taking a moment to stay here. Maybe hands stay on low back, maybe they lower to the mat, or you find a different hand variation altogether. Taking time to check in with body, noticing changes in thoughts and sensations, welcoming anything that presents itself to you here. From here, we'll gently make our way to belly down, adjusting the blanket, if that is something you are using to support you, underneath your hips. From here, we'll bring our gaze to the left as we bring our hands under our shoulders and bring it one handprint outside of our shoulders. On an inhale, lift heart, bring gaze to center. On an exhale, gently release, gazing to the right. Inhale, lift heart. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Inhale, lift heart. Exhale, release, gaze to the right. Inhale, lift heart. Exhale, release, gaze to the left. One more round. Inhale, lift heart. Exhale, release, gaze to the right. Last one. Inhale, lift heart. Exhale, release, gaze to the left. Option if you would like to stay here, or maybe you find crocodile by bringing elbows to the outside edges, stacking hands on one another, lowering the forehead, taking deep breaths. Expanding back body with breath to help release any tension. Maybe you want to stay here. When you're ready, we'll lift the forehead, hands one handprint outside of shoulder. This time we'll incorporate legs. On an inhale, lifting heart to center as we bend the left leg. On an exhale, gently release, gazing to the right. Inhale, lift heart, bending right leg. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Inhale, gazing to center, bending left leg. Exhale, release, gazing to the right. Inhale, lift heart, bending right leg. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Inhale, bending left leg as we lift our heart. Exhale, release, gazing to the right. Last one. Inhale, heart, bending right leg. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Option again to stay here. Maybe you find crocodile. Breathing deep. On an inhale, we'll gently lift our forehead, bringing hands under your shoulders. One handprint outside of there, gazing to the left. This time we'll bend both legs. On an inhale, lifting heart, bending both knees. On an exhale, gently release, gazing to the right. Inhale, lift heart, bend knees. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Inhale, lift heart, bend knees. Exhale, release, gazing to the right. Inhale, lift heart, bending knees. Exhale, release, gaze to the right. One more round. Inhale, lift heart, bending knees. Exhale, release, gazing to the right. Last one. Inhale, bend heart. Lift heart, bend knees. Exhale, release, gazing to the left. Option again to stay here. Maybe you want to take crocodile one last time. Stacking palms, breathing deep, finding movement if that calls to you in body. On our next inhale, we'll slowly and gently find our way to a tabletop shape, adjusting any props you are using to support you here. Again, stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. As we find an inhale, finding table. On an exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, tabletop. As we tuck our back toes, exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lower knees, untuck toes. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, table. Exhale, tucking toes, downward facing dog. Inhale, lower knees, untuck toes. Exhale, child's. Inhale, moving into table. As we exhale, tuck toes, shift our hips high, downward dog. Inhale, lower knees, untuck toes, table. Exhale, child's. Inhale, finding your way to table. As you tuck your toes, shift your hips high, downward facing dog. Option to pedal out your feet. Taking time to adjust your downward dog in any way you see fit. And from here, we'll slowly and gently walk our hands back to meet our feet, finding a forward fold. Option to bend knees generously here, allowing the torso to fall out of the hips. Maybe you would like to take ragdoll by finding opposite hand to opposite elbow. Option to find any gentle movement. Maybe you nod or shake your head to encourage release or relaxation. On an inhale, halfway lift, bringing hands to shins, widening collarbone. On an exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway. Option if you would like to bring arms next to ears to see what that variation feels like. Exhale, fold. On an inhale, bending knees, root to rise, arms long overhead. And on an exhale, we'll slowly and gently float our arms down. On an inhale, reaching here. And on an exhale, hinging at your hips, finding the forward fold. As we bend our knees generously, shifting our hips back, rising for chair. Maybe arms are next to ears, maybe they're at heart center. As we find an inhale, we'll fold forward. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bending knees, root to rise, arms long overhead. And on an exhale, floating arms down. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bending knees generously as we shift our hips back, rising on an inhale for chair. Finding your variation, whatever that is. And on an exhale, we'll fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. Bending knees, root to rise, arms long overhead. And on an exhale, floating arms down. Inhale, reach. Exhale, bending knees generously, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. As we shift our hips back, lifting torso chair. Maybe your knees go in towards one another, even if they're not touching. Maybe you shift the weight into the heels. When you're ready, we'll gently release on a forward fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. From here, this time we'll slowly roll up, keeping arms by sides, knowing there is no rush. Taking a moment to notice how we're feeling now. From here, if the blanket is here, we'll bring it out to the side. Bringing the back foot of the left foot about 45 as we take a gentle step forward with the right, keeping the legs straight. From here, we will bring the back of the right hand to the low back as we reach the left arm. Taking an inhale. On an exhale, forward fold. On an inhale, we'll rise all the way to standing. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise to standing. One more time, forward fold. Rising all the way to standing. This time we'll incorporate a halfway lift, reaching here. Exhale, fold. As we find an inhale coming up for a halfway lift, arm next to ear. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway, arm next to ear. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Last one. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise, arm next to ear. Exhale, fold. Holding here, option to release the right hand. Finding what calls to you in body. And when we're ready, we'll bring our hand to the front leg as we gently roll ourselves up. Taking a gentle step back and noticing. How are we feeling now? As we step the right foot about 45, turn it out about 45, taking a gentle step forward with the left leg, keeping that leg straight. From here, back of left hand to low back. As we lift the right arm, taking an inhale, exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fold. On an inhale, we'll rise here. As we fold forward on an exhale, this time incorporating halfway lifts. Inhale, halfway, arm next to ear. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rising all the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway, arm next to ear. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, rising. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. And on an exhale, we'll fold forward. Option if you would like to release the left hand. Maybe your gaze is at the left knee. Staying connected with breath. And when you're ready, we'll gently bring our hand to our front leg as we rise. Taking a gentle step back and noticing, how do I feel now? Noticing how one side may be different than the other with curiosity and openness. Welcoming anything that is presenting itself to you here. As we find an inhale, we'll reach our arms. On an exhale, hinging at your hips, forward fold. Inhale, halfway. As we walk forward to a downward facing dog. From here, lowering knees to the mat, untucking toes, shifting hips to heels, child's pose. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, lowering knees to mat, untucking toes. As you find an exhale to child's. Inhale, flat back table. Tucking toes, shifting hips high, downward dog. Gently lowering knees to mat, shifting hips back, child's. One more round to table. Tucking toes, shifting hips high, downward. As we roll forward, finding table, moving into child's and pause. Noticing how we feel now. When we're ready, we'll gently walk ourselves up. If you would like to bring the blanket back in, the invitation is to do so. We'll find our way into tall kneeling. From here, we'll bring the right foot forward, having it slightly straight. As we find an inhale, we'll bend into the front knee, arms next to ears. On an exhale, lowering everything, straightening front leg. Inhale, bend and reach. Exhale, straighten and lower. Inhale, bend and reach. Exhale, straighten and lower. Inhale, bend and reach. Exhale, straighten and lower. Last time, bend and reach and hold. When you're ready, we'll come back into tall kneeling, taking our time to come out of the shape as we check in and notice how we're feeling now. As we bring the left foot forward, straightening it slightly, arms by sides. As we find an inhale, we'll bend into the front knee, arms next to ears. Exhale, gently release, everything straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. Last time, bending here and hold. Arms next to ears. Maybe you slide the right hip forward. Using breath. When you're ready, we'll gently release as we bring the left leg back under us, returning to tall kneeling. As we find an inhale, reaching arms. And on an exhale, lowering hips to heels, hands stay long in front. Inhale, rise. Exhale, release, hands low back, hips to heels. Inhale, reach. Exhale, arms long in front, hips to heels. Inhale, rise. Exhale, release, hands low back, hips to heels. Taking a moment to notice how we're feeling now. As we prepare to move into constructive rest, maybe you come up through tabletop, adjusting the blanket in any way that you need. As we bring the blanket underneath our glutes, bringing knees in towards our glutes, arms long by sides, we'll move into dynamic bridge from constructive rest. As we find an inhale, lifting hips, lifting arms long overhead. On an exhale, lowering everything back down. Inhale, lift arms, lift hips. Exhale, release. everything back down. Inhale, lift arms, lift hips. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift arms, lift hips. Exhale, release. Last time, inhale, lift arms, lift hips. We'll hold here, bringing knees in towards one another, even if they're not touching, chin towards chest. Staying connected with breath, rooting firmly into your feet. And on an exhale, release everything back down. Taking a moment to notice how you feel. As we lift the feet off the mat, bringing hands to the kneecaps on an inhale, bringing knees into chest. Exhale, pushing forward. Feet may hover. Inhale, knees into chest. Exhale, pushing away. Feet may hover. Inhale, knees into chest. Exhale, release. Inhale, knees into chest. As we gently release the feet to the left, maybe you bring your hips slightly to the right as you goalpost or tee out your arms. Maybe your gaze is high or you lower to the right. Maybe you'd like to stay where you are, or when you're ready, bringing gaze back to center as you bring the top knee and the bottom knee into your chest, adjusting your hips in any way. As we find any gentle movement that we may need, as we prepare ourselves for the second side, knowing there is no rush to get there. And once you found what you need, again, knowing there is no rush, we'll gently escape our hips to the left as we lower our knees to the right. Option to goalpost or tee out your arms, gaze maybe higher, maybe it falls to the left. When you're ready to release the shape, gently bringing gaze back to center as you bring the top knee and bottom knee into your chest, squaring off your hips and finding any movement that you and body need as we prepare to end our practice today. Maybe you would like a happy baby, bringing your hands to the outside edges of the feet as we lift sole of the feet high to sky, bending knees generously. Maybe you would like an inversion, such as legs up the wall. Maybe you would like a reclined bound angle, or anything else that calls to you in body as we prepare ourselves for our final resting shape of Shavasana. Your Shavasana may look different than your neighbors. Your legs may be long in front, with your arms out by your sides, palms facing high to sky. Maybe you're lying on your belly or your side, or even seated. Finding a final resting shape that will allow you to integrate all the information and movement that we took in during our practice today. Slowly and gently deepening your inhales and exhales as you return to breath. Noticing the natural rise and fall of your breath as it enters and exits the body. Option to find gentle movement by turning the head from one side to the other. Maybe you bring the thumb to the tips of your fingers as we circle our wrists and ankles in each direction. If you would like to take a full body stretch, maybe you reach your arms long overhead as you point your toes to the end of the mat. You may choose to hug knees into chest, giving yourself a gentle squeeze, finding any movement that calls to you and body. Option to end practice wherever you find yourself, or if you would like, slowly and gently making your way to a seated shape. If it calls to you, maybe you bring palms together, bringing thumbs into sternum at heart center. Thank you all for taking time to share your energy and practice with me today. And light and love. Namaste.